You are listening to Shabad Kirtan by Sammun Singh Raji and Party. Now stand by for the news.
This is All India Radio. The news read by Ramya. Mounting a strong defense of the Citizenship Amendment Act, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said the dispute that has arisen was aware of persecution that a section of the youth is being misguided over the CAA, which is aimed at giving and not taking away anybody's citizenship. Of Swami Vivekananda at Belur Math, the headquarters of Ramakrishna Math and Mission in West Bengal. The Prime Minister clarified that there will be no adverse impact of the CAA in northeastern region of the country. He said that by amending the Citizenship Act, the scope of granting citizenship has been increased. The Prime Minister sought the cooperation of youth to fulfill the dreams of Swami Vivekananda to build New India. The birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda was celebrated as National Youth Day throughout the country yesterday. Addressing the 150th year celebrations of the Kolkata Port Trust, Prime Minister announced the renaming of Kolkata Port as Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Port. Mr. Modi launched several development projects worth 600 crore rupees to mark the day. Union Home Minister and BJP National President Amit Shah has said there is no provision for taking away citizenship anywhere in the CAA. Rather, there is the provision of granting citizenship in it. Addressing a public meeting in Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, he said, minorities in the country are being misguided that their citizenship will be lost. He challenged the opposition parties to find out any provision in the CAA that can take citizenship away from anyone in the country. In Jammu and Kashmir, 3 terrorists, including a top Hizb commander, were killed by security forces in an encounter in Tral subdivision of Pulwama district yesterday. The operation concluded while as arms and ammunition have been recovered from the encounter site. Addressing media persons in Srinagar last evening, Inspector General Police Kashmir Zone Vijay Kumar described the killing of top Hizb commander Hamad Khan along with his 2 accomplices in Tral area, a big success in pursuit of anti-terrorism fight in Jammu and Kashmir. He also confirmed the arrest of J&K police cop turned Hizbul commander and a police officer. Replying queries, Mr. Kumar said, the Jammu and Kashmir police is investigating the collaborations of the arrested DSP. Defense Secretary Ajay Kumar has said the government is in the process of acquiring around 200 aircraft to cope with the depleting aerial inventories of the Indian Air Force. Talking to reporters on the sidelines of commissioning Indian Coast Guard vessels in Kolkata yesterday, he said the contract for the HAL manufactured 83 LCA Tejas Mark 1A advanced fighter jets are in the final stages. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin has said the Phase 1 of trade deal with China includes them buying $200 billion worth of additional products from the United States. Mr. Mnuchin told ABC News ahead of signing of the first phase of the deal worth $200 billion over the next 2 years, which includes $40 billion to $50 billion in agriculture. He said this is a big opportunity for U.S. farmers. Describing it as an historic transaction, Mr. Mnuchin said further talks would be held for the remaining phases. He said the language of the trade deal will be released this week. Iraqi media reports suggest that 7 mortar bombs fell inside Iraq's Balad air base, which houses U.S. forces. 5 Iraqi soldiers have reportedly been injured in the attack, media reported, citing military sources. They said mortar bombs fell inside the base, which is located in Salah al-Din province, 80 kilometers north of Baghdad. There is no official confirmation, however, of such an attack. No group so far have taken responsibility for the attack too. The World Future Energy Summit opens in Abu Dhabi today with 33,500 attendees expected from 170 countries and 800 specialist exhibitors. World Future Energy Summit is Middle East's largest future energy and sustainable event. Now to end this news bulletin, here are the main points. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said dispute over Citizenship Amendment Act has made the world aware of persecution of religious minorities in Pakistan. Home Minister Amit Shah says there is no provision for taking away citizenship anywhere in the CAA. US says the phase 1 of trade deal with China includes them buying $200 billion worth of additional production in the United States. And that is the end of this news bulletin.
This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. Now is the time for the day's commentary. Scientific potential for socio-economic development. Script, N. Bhadran Nair. Executive Editor, Indian Science Journal.
Science traditionally has remained within the four walls of laboratories, but the focus in India is now turning to make it socially relevant to help the nation catapult towards a developmental trajectory. As a recently concluded 107th edition of Indian Science Congress, what is described as the Mahakumbh of scientific congregations, India's national leaders call for bridging the gap between the lab and the land, lab and the work floor, or the lab and healthcare facilities to make it more people-oriented. The theme of this year's edition of Indian Science Congress was Science and Technology, Rural Development. Technology is a bridge between government and common man. Technology is the balancing factor for speedy development and right development. Technology has no bias, nor it takes sides but is neutral. It brings unprecedented results. When there is coordination between human sensitivity and modern technology, said Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his opening address of the Congress in Bengaluru. The world is facing an existential crisis in the form of climate change and global warming. A massive bushfire in Australia or the earlier fire in Amazon forest could be traced to human negligence, deliberate or otherwise. But scientists have warned the scale and devastation of clear indications of the way climate change can intensify natural disasters, leading to unimaginable misery to flora and fauna. We are witnessing nature's fury in myriad forms like roaring storms, raging fires, cataclysms, emaciating droughts, and in answer to the climate change, warned Indian Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu in his valedictory address at the Congress. India cannot remain in silo about such disasters happening on the other side of the globe. Since the world is interconnected in more than many ways, the impact of climate change cannot be wished away. It's out at our doorsteps. The bottom line of all our efforts is improved quality of life, not merely greater prosperity, says Vice President Naidu. This is where the scientific community needs to put their heads together to find a solution to protecting our environment while keeping developmental goals of a vast country as ours. India has several national issues which need urgent scientific attention, be it agriculture or healthcare. The farm crisis of burgeoning burden of diseases, both communicable and non-communicable, needs to be tackled to improve the quality of life of the Indian population. Technology has improved delivery of social schemes, farming methods and healthcare, but it has to be sustained to reach to the last person in the social chain and geographical reach. This is a daunting effort given the vastness of our country and the size of our population. This is a challenge to our planners, administrators and scientists too. While we tend to measure the scientific achievements in terms of number of research papers published or amount of money spent, its real test is if it helps to find solutions that are appropriate to our present-day challenges without jeopardizing our collective future, was succinctly put by Mr. Naidu. Nobel laureate Stefan W. Hell from Germany was of the view that big discoveries cannot be planned. In the same vein, he said, one cannot have illusions in science. Hell's called for blue sky research or research in domains where real-world applications are not immediately apparent, will not go well with the aspirations and demands of average Indians or the roadmap made by Indian leadership. India has the human resources, a history of scientific temperament, and several iconic scientists who have made their mark in the international spectrum to emulate, like Sir C.V. Raman, Meghnad Saha, Srinivasa Ramanujan, Homi J. Bhabha, Jagdish Chandra Bose, and many more. It also has a national ecosystem that promotes young minds into scientific pathways. And as Prime Minister Modi said, we need to innovate, patent, produce, and prosper to make the country scientifically rooted to ground to solve many of our fundamental problems that still evade any solution.
That was the day's commentary, Scientific Potential for Socio-Economic Development. Script, N. Bhadran Nair, Executive Editor, Indian Science Journal. Now, in our program of Easy Melodies, we bring to you latest film hit songs. The first song today is from the recent film Shimla Mirch, 100 Galatiyan, performed by Meet Brothers and Jan, Yasser Desai, Khushbu Grewal. Music composed by Meet Brothers and Jan, lyrics by Kumar. Enjoy 100 Galatiyan. listening to song Galatia from Shimla Mirch. Now the next song is from the recent weekend song Tanaji, the Unsung Warrior. My Bhavani, sung by Supinder Singh, Shreya Ghoshal, music composed by Ajay Atul, lyrics by Swanand Kirkire. Enjoy My Bhavani. You're listening to a song from the recent film Tanaji, My Bhavani, sung by Supinder Singh, Shreya Ghoshal, music composed by Ajay Atul. Now, in our program of light music, we present to you Tawana by Yusuf Ali Khan and Party.
Bye-bye.
You are listening to Qawwali by Yusuf Ali Khan and Party. Now in our special program, Dateline Delhi, on the occasion of the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda, an interview with Professor B. Bhattacharya.
Brothers and sisters of America, it fills my heart with joy unspeakable to rise in response to the warm and cordial welcome which you have given us. I thank you in the name of the most ancient order of monks in the world. I thank you in the name of Mother of Religions, and I thank you in the name of millions and millions of Hindu people of all classes and sects. I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true. I am proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the persecuted and the refugees of all religions and all nations of the earth.
In our program Dateline Delhi today, on the occasion of the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda, we bring you an interview with author Professor B. Bhattacharya, who is being interviewed by Aditi Bhaduri, a journalist. Hello dear friends, and welcome to this program. We are privileged to have with us today acclaimed academician, author and columnist Professor B. Bhattacharya. Professor Bhattacharya was Dean, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, and has also served as Senior Advisor with the United Nations. His last published work is Myths, Mythology and Religion. Today we are going to discuss with Professor Bhattacharya his latest book on Swami Vivekananda, Swami Vivekananda on Institution Building and Management. It's published by the National Book Trust. Professor Bhattacharya, what made you write this book?
Well, it all began about half a decade before, when I was heading a business school, and we thought it would be a good idea to have a course on leadership issues. After all, we prepare the students to become leaders, and I was interested not in a standardized leadership course. I wanted to do something else. So I thought, why not pick up those leaders who have created strong institutions and which have lasted for centuries. When I looked around at what kind of materials are available so that the students can use them, I found to my consternation that there are not really that many books. So what do? The only option was that I identify who the leaders are in the first instance, and then find out whether there are biographies or other things available. And if not, right, that's the last option, and not necessarily the best option, of course. So in any way, I identified three leaders looking at the Indian civilizational history who have left extremely strong legacy in terms of institutions. The first one, of course, is Gautama Buddha, who started the Buddhist religion, but more importantly, he, for the first time in history, in human history rather, an institution. So it is called Sangha, where all Buddhists belong. And what is started after 2,600 years before is still continuing. And the second leader that I found is somewhat later, around 900 AD, which is Adi Shankaracharya. He, as you know, as a Hindu revivalist and one of the greatest philosophers that India has produced, created or set up, will be a better word, in 4 parts of India. And those mots, I suppose everybody understands mots, so I will not try to have an English equivalent for that, still exist. And the last one is very contemporary, 150 years before, is Swami Vivekananda. As you all know, is the disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. But Sri Ramakrishna was a spiritual person. He didn't have really the instinct, and possibly as the time, he also died early, to set up an institution. That job was left to Swamiji. And Swamiji, I suppose, created before his very untimely death at the age of 39, an NGO, because I cannot find a better word for it, which has lasted for about 100 years now and has expanded in scale so much that it is now seen in practically every part of the world. So when I found that Vivekananda is a role model, the next question to me was, are books available? I found that there are hundreds of books in English, in Bengali and in other vernacular languages on Swamiji, but not on institutional building or management. They are all on the spiritual side, what he has done on yoga, on practical Vedanta and so on. So I had to do the labor myself and write out a book. So I began. I had absolutely no intention of writing a book on Swamiji, though I regularly write books on other subjects. But here there was no option. So you can say it's a love of labor by default.
As you say, we tend to think of Swamiji as a spiritual leader, or spiritual head, a spiritual guide. And yet you called him a CEO. Can you elaborate on this and what made you come to this conclusion?
Yes, of course. In fact, that's the whole focus of the book. Everybody thinks that since he is the spiritual successor of one of the greatest spiritual leaders of modern India, Thakur Ramakrishna, he is also solely spiritual. And you find his photograph being worshipped in almost all Ramakrishna mission along with other two. But I felt that if I look at it from a different prism, not the prism of spirituality, but his effort and his success to create an institution, then we get a different picture altogether. Everybody knows that he went to Chicago and gave that resounding lecture on the world's religion, but very few really talk about what he did in terms of getting resources, getting people organized, creating a team, managing very disparate group of people from different parts of the country and also Europe and in the United States in particular, into a cohesive group of people, a cohesive group of disciples who will do what he wants. Now, what he really wanted, and that is the key, because to Vivekananda, spiritualism in the sense that you worship God is not the idea. What he wanted is nation building. He wanted a resurgent India, awakened India. All the time he is saying, awake, awake, awake. So his idea of spiritualism is imbibed with the core aspect of nation building. And nation building is linked with character building. He says that if I can build the characters of Indians, then the nation will get built, right? Now all these are very fundamental to a founder CEO. If you look at a CEO of a startup, what he does, he has to first of all get an idea that this is his vision, and then he lays down the procedures, protocols and so on. He goes around, find the required resources. He recruits the people of the required ability who will drive towards the mission and the goals that he has set up. He delegates authority because he cannot do everything. And finally, he also knows that a time will come when he will not be there. He has to do succession planning. All these are CEO activity. And if you see how Swamiji really progressed on the path of setting up the Ramakrishna mission and Mott, includes all these activities that I listed out now. So I consider him to be the perfect example of a founder CEO, not only a CEO but a founder CEO, because he did everything that a CEO does.
So what do you think that now that, so many years have passed, what is the relevance of his message for us today in this fast-paced digital age?
Well, I suppose he is very much relevant. If you look at the political situation right now, you will find that every person, every statesman, really is speaking of Swamiji. And now what Swamiji meant for India is this one song of almost everybody of any political persuasion, which means that he is relevant. The question is, how does a spiritual leader remain relevant in the context of everyday life? Now, there my understanding is twofold really. First, the more dynamic is the external environment, the more fast-paced, the greater is the need of internal peace. If you want to be a leader, you want to accomplish something, then you have to have peace inside. So you have to remain focused. So what Vivekananda did? Vivekananda also faced lots of problems externally, but he remained calm inside. And that serenity allowed him to remain focused, to remain absolutely concentrated on the goal that he has set for himself. Now look at us now, especially the younger generation. They are in a very competitive world. Most of them are highly ambitious. That gets them frustrated if they do not get what they are expecting to get. And therefore there is a need to look inside, to remain calm and serene, not only through meditation but through any other means. And that is what Vivekananda is all the time saying. Do not live only for you, live for others. That gives a new perspective. And it also gives you a mental relief from the adversaries that you are faced with. So let's look at what Swamiji really wanted. He was focusing, as I told you earlier, that era is awake, resurgent India. So nation building. Now he understood very clearly that education and education for all is the first step that has to be taken. Now that will also include, because you remember he is talking quite about 100 years back, women education was not there. But he was focusing on women education because he said that if 50% of the population who are also mothers and therefore more responsible for the next generation than father has to be educated. And today, as you see, the government plans and policies are very inclusive where all sectors of the society, irrespective of gender, will have access to universal education. So to that extent, what Swamiji said, we are acting upon that. He focused on physical health. He says that mental health cannot be done without physical health. So skills, your exercises, he once said very famously that you can reach God by playing football. So what does it really mean? It means that you are physically able and that ability will get transformed into mental ability to do that. So you have that kind of attitudinal frame which is very much important for today. But take the most important one. He was echoing his guru, Thakur Ramakrishna, in terms of interreligious faith. That all religions are same, fundamentally same, and therefore do not fight on those issues. What you have to focus upon is that you do good to others. If you live for others, that's the ultimate service to God. And I think in today's world, there cannot be anything more important than this. You look around the world, you find one of the major reasons for conflicts among nations, within nations, is directly, indirectly related to religion. And what Swamiji has said and Thakur Ramakrishna has said, religion is fundamentally same. Look at the service to people and you find that everything will fall in place. Because if you are serving the people, you are serving the God.
Right. Since your book specifically focuses on institution building and management, so what are some of the management lessons that students of management can get from the book, or the book talks about?
The easiest thing to understand Swamiji's teaching on the management by listening or reading about what he did. He has not left any manual that how we should do, though he did to some extent, but actually you have to learn about it by reading his lectures, his letters, his books and so on. That's what I also did really. Look at the first thing that he did in terms of management, which is very, very crucial. When he returned from his Western tour back to India, and started thinking of setting up the Belur Mott and monastery, he found that his concept that you can serve God by serving people is not really that much acceptable even to his very close friends. They thought in the traditional way, we are sannyasis, we have given up the world, and therefore we should only sit in meditation and worship God. Now that's not Swamiji's idea at all. So first of all, you have to convince somewhat skeptical friends of his that what he says is in line with what Thakur Ramakrishna said and persuade them that this is the right path. And that required a lot of persuasive capability. And the one thing that a manager needs is to understand how to persuade the staff, both below him as well as those who are above him. Right? So that's the first thing. Second, he found that it may be possible, and possibly that is the right approach, that everybody will not agree with him. Therefore, why not create a situation where you have two kinds of people in the Ramakrishna order, those who are more spiritually oriented and those who are more public service oriented. So what he did, he set up two institutions. One is Ramakrishna Math and Ramakrishna Mission. If you are more spiritually inclined, then you go towards the Math and devote your time more to puja and archana and that kind of thing. If you are more public service oriented, you go to the mission and you start schools, hospitals and things like that. So he understood that there cannot be one single channel if the institution has to survive and to expand, and therefore he created from the beginning these two so that there is no conflict. At the same time, as a good manager, he understood that there has to be a synergy between the two. So what he did, he created a board of trustees which is common for both, right? So Math works, mission works, but in tandem to create the synergy that he wanted. These are all what I would say as a leadership qualities. The second management thing that I can focus upon is a conflict resolution. Well, what happens is when you set up a new organization, new kinds of people are coming with different ideas and so on. So there will be occasions, there are going to be occasions when people will disagree with each other. And unless there is a system for those disputes or disagreements rather, if not disputes, are to be settled, there can be a problem. The organization may disintegrate. So, to give you one example, I can go on but we don't have the time, try to create a situation where everybody will have a chance by rotation to head the organization. So in one of the first resolution of the trustees, he suggested that the senior most disciple of Thakur Ramakrishna will be the first president. He himself did not take any official position. That's one of the most important things to understand his managerial capability. He often says, if you want to be the leader, you put yourself at the last. Always push others to the front. Similarly, he said that while the first senior most disciple will become the first president, he will relinquish it after 2 years. Then the next person will take over. And that's how the Ramakrishna Mission in fact has worked, without a single hitch till today. I suppose it shows that, as I said possibly in one sentence in my book, that he had the heart of a sannyasi but the head of a businessman.
So how long did it take you to write this book? What are some of the sources you used?
The idea of writing the book, as I said, is about 7 to 8 years back. Then I started working on it, along with many other things, and sometimes it was left to the back burner and things like this. But I suppose I worked full time on the book for about 2 years. 1 year was spent on researching, and 1 year, about 6 to 8 months to prepare the first draft, and then another 4 months for the second draft, and then to find out the publisher.
And have you had any personal experiences with the Ramakrishna Mission? Have you been involved yourself?
Well, my wife has taken Diksha from Ramakrishna Mission from Delhi, and I have been going to mission, I suppose, for a long time. Almost 50 years that I am in Delhi. I have been going on and off. Whenever I find myself mentally disturbed, I do drop in there. It does give me some mental peace and do that. It's a very quiet place. Even if you don't meditate, even if you just go there quite often,
yes.
I spend maybe half an hour in the meditation room and then go to the bookshop and buy a few books and come back. The one incident that I remember with fondness is about a decade and a half back, I was approached by mission through somebody, Ramakrishna Mission at Mumbai. They suggested to me that can I design a 2-day workshop on how to teach ethics to students in the higher educational institutions. So I said I'll be happy to do that. So I did design it. They modified it to suit their requirements. And then they invited me to Mumbai to be a resource person and had interaction with almost 300 to 400 college and university teachers. So I do have on and off interactions, without going into further details.
Swamiji also had a lot of interest in the arts and culture. So tell us about that facet of Swamiji.
Swamiji, in fact, was a very accomplished singer. He used to sing very well, and in fact, in his first encounters with his Guru, Thakur Ramakrishna, Thakur wanted to listen to a devotional song. At that time, Swamiji was not Swamiji. He was a college student, and his name was Narendranath. So Narendranath sang one song which was penned by Rabindranath Thakur in the Puja Parjay, that is a devotional song. And Thakur was so impressed that he went into trance, what is called Samadhi. And from then onwards, whenever Narendranath will not go to Dakshineshwar where Thakur Ramakrishna was staying, he will ask, call that boy. And whenever he will go, he would ask, I want to listen to the songs. So he had a very intimate knowledge, classical music, and used to sing very well, and was quite famous in his friend circle about music. He learned formally a certain amount of music only in the school days. Beyond that, he had not patience for that. But it is a natural ability that he had. He was equally interested in painting, and he did not paint right away. I think, to my best of my knowledge, the only painting that he did was to design the logo of Ramakrishna Math and Mission, which you will find if you go to any building of Ramakrishna Mission, you will find from distance the logo. The logo is very complicated. Its explanation requires about 2 pages to understand what it is. But it was designed by Swamiji during dinner. When he was having dinner with some others, one American gentleman came to see him. He said, can you design a logo? He said, yes. So he took one of the paper napkins and drew it over there. So it is like that, he did it. And that has stood the test of time. We have not changed the logo so far. Whatever he did, it still remains. His understanding of music is so profound. For example, I'll give you one observation of his. It is not in the book, by the way. I am just telling you. He was in the US at that point of time. So some of his close disciples decided to take him to an opera. That opera was very famous, running full house. So Swamiji was taken over there. Swamiji enjoyed it and came out and said that, look, there is a big difference between Western music and Indian classical music. In Indian classical music, if you see our ragas, you will find it is defined by the time of the day when it is being sung. So you have got Bhairavi in the morning and so on, Bhagesri in the evening, so many we have. But in your Western classical opera type of music, there is no concept of time. You can do it the same thing in the morning, same thing in the evening. We don't do it in India, so we are possibly much more evolved so far as music is concerned. So that's there. He has an interest in architecture. The basic design of the Belur Math, which is beautifully designed architecture, building, he did it himself. He has no formal training at all in architecture. But he did it all by himself. And you will find that what is set up as the basic core design is followed till today. he started with one Belur Math which he could not see completed by the time he died. And now there are more than 100 all over the world. But a look at you, at any building anywhere, whether it is Chicago or Paharganj, will tell you that is Ramakrishna Mission. It is so unique in design. So he had a very multifarious personality with interest in almost everything. And he was a voracious reader. One of the things that he used to tell others, especially important for students, he had a fabulous memory. He is not a typical sannyasi at all. One day, one of his disciples, first disciple in fact, if I take out Sister Nivedita, that's a different story. One day, one of his disciples came and he found that Swamiji is engrossed in reading a huge volume. And that volume was, I think, 12 or 13 of the 26th volume of Encyclopedia Britannica. So he said, Guruji, what is it that you are studying so attentively? He said, you are saying I am reading this and I have finished 12 volumes, I am on the 13th. He said, how much time did you take? I said, 15 days or so. He said, it's impossible, nobody can do it. He said, test me. You pick up any volume of the first 12 and ask me anything from any page. He did it and found that he absolutely verbatim he reproduced. He had such a memory that one reading was enough for him to remember it. A similar story said that he once was reading a novel by Dickens and Pickwick Papers. So one of his disciples said, Swamiji, why are you interested in such frivolous novel? Pickwick Papers is not frivolous, but it is witty. He said, no, I read it once in the school, so I thought why not have another look. So I read. So he said, can you tell me one or two pages? He said, yes, verbatim. You ask me what page you want, I will tell you. There is a fabulous memory. And he tells that it is nothing God-given. You can do what I have done. Only thing is you follow the same discipline that I have followed. Have the concentration, have the lifestyle that I have, the brahmacharya and all, and you may not be able to reach my level, but you will reach a sufficiently high level. So that is one thing I always tell the students community, who try to mug up before the exam with lots of efforts, saying that try to concentration, and concentration comes from meditation. Meditation is nothing but a form of concentration, and concentration helps you to develop more memory. So he may be a sannyasi, he may be a great spiritual leader, but he is very much grounded on earth. And he gives you in one sentence something which you will remember for decades.
And yes, what is the one lesson that you have imbibed from Swamiji?
Be courageous. That is not only my lesson. In fact, Vivekananda says to everybody, walk with your head high, spine erect, and have courage. You will face lots of problems. There is no doubt. He has faced himself. He did not know when the next meal will come. If it comes, I will eat. If it doesn't come, I will go starve. I have no shelter. If somebody gives me a room, I will go and sleep there. If not, I will sleep in the footpath. That's how he started. And he is all the time saying, be courageous. And whenever I face any problem, whether it is at professional level or at personal life, I always think of Vivekananda, and I always feel that the problems and their scale, their intensity that he had to face, my problems are peanuts. There's nothing. Right? So, what he had, that we are still remembering him after 150 years. Then what he suggested, that be courageous, must be a proper advice.
Professor Bhattacharya, pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Jaya
Dateline Delhi today, on the occasion of the birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. We were just listening to an interview with author Professor B. Bhattacharya, who was being interviewed by Aditi Bhaduri, a journalist. This program came to you from the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.
Now stand by for the news.
This is All India Radio, the news, read by Ramya. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says dispute over Citizenship Amendment Act has made the world aware of persecution of religious minorities in Pakistan. Home Minister Amit Shah says there is no provision for taking away citizenship anywhere in the CAA. US says phase 1 of trade deal with China includes them buying $200 billion worth of additional products from the United States. In Philippines, a volcano near capital Manila spews a massive cloud of ash into the sky, forcing precautionary evacuation of thousands of residents. Mounting a strong defense of the Citizenship Amendment Act, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said the dispute that has arisen over it has made the world aware of persecution of religious minorities in Pakistan. He, however, deplored that a certain section of youth is being misguided over the CAA, which is aimed at giving and not taking away anybody's citizenship. Mr. Modi was addressing a gathering on the occasion of birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda at Belur Math, the headquarters of Ramakrishna Math and Mission in West Bengal. The Prime Minister clarified that there will be no adverse impact of the CAA in northeastern region of the country. He said that by amending the Citizenship Act, the scope of granting citizenship has been increased. The Prime Minister sought the cooperation of youth to fulfill the dreams of Swami Vivekananda to build New India. The birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda was celebrated as National Youth Day throughout the country yesterday. Addressing the 150th year celebrations of the Kolkata Port Trust, Prime Minister announced the renaming of Kolkata Port as Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Port. Mr. Modi launched several development projects worth 600 crore rupees to match today. Prime Minister said that the government has taken up plans for expansion of inland waterways connectivity through integrated transport policy. Mr. Modi also advocated for expansion of water-based tourism in the country, besides creating new infrastructure in port-connected cities. Home Minister and BJP National President Amit Shah has said there is no provision for taking away citizenship anywhere in the CAA. Rather, there is the provision of granting citizenship in it. Addressing a public meeting in Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, he said minorities in the country are being misguided that their citizenship will be lost. He challenged the opposition parties to find out any provision in the CAA that can take citizenship away from anyone in the country. Mr. Shah asked all those who were present to give a missed call to the phone number BJP has shared and show their support for the CAA. He said the BJP is running this mass awareness campaign as the opposition parties are misleading the people of the country on the CAA. Union Minorities Affairs Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi has said the Citizenship Amendment Act will not be rolled back and it is in force across the country, including Jammu and Kashmir. He was speaking to media in Hyderabad on the sidelines of Hunar Haat, inaugurated in Hyderabad at Necklace Road. The minister has alleged that the opposition parties have ganged up to mislead the nation and they are trying to create panic among a section of the country. Referring to the remarks of some opposition leaders, including Mamta Banerjee, that the respective states will have their own law, he said they should better understand the Constitution of India properly. He also assured Indian Muslim community that they are part of the country and no citizen of the country will be affected due to implementation of the CAA. In Jammu and Kashmir, 3 terrorists, including a top head commander, were killed by security forces in an encounter in Sal subdivision of Pulwama district yesterday. The operation concluded while as arms and ammunition have been recovered from the encounter site. Addressing media persons in Srinagar last evening, Inspector General Police Kashmir Zone Vijay Kumar described the killing of top Hizb commander Ahmad Khan along with his 2 accomplices in Tral area a big success in pursuit of anti-terrorism fight in Jammu and Kashmir. He also confirmed the arrest of Jammu and Kashmir Police Corp turned Hizbul commander and a police officer. Replying queries, Mr. Kumar said the Jammu and Kashmir Police is investigating the collaboration of arrested DSP. Defense Secretary Ajay Kumar has said the government is in the process of acquiring around 200 aircraft to cope with the depleting aerial inventories of the Indian Air Force. Talking to reporters on sidelines of commissioning Indian Coast Guard vessels in Kolkata yesterday, he said the contracts for HAL manufactured 83 LCA Tejas Mark 1A advanced fighter jets are in the final stages. This is all in the radio, giving you the news. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin has said the Phase 1 of the trade deal with China includes them buying $200 billion worth of additional products from the United States. Mr. Mnuchin told ABC News ahead of signing of the first phase of the deal worth $200 billion over the next 2 years, which includes $40 billion to $50 billion in agriculture. He said this is a big opportunity for U.S. farmers. Describing it as a historic transaction, Mr. Mnuchin said further talks would be held for the remaining phases. He said the language of the trade deal will be released this week. Last year, the U.S. imposed tariff hikes of up to 25% on $250 billion of Chinese goods. The move prompted China to increase tariffs on $110 billion of U.S. goods. The Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, arrived in Tehran yesterday with a high-ranking delegation. He was welcomed by top Iranian officials, including President Rouhani. The Emir's visit comes and heightened tensions in the Persian Gulf. Sheikh Tamim and President Rouhani discussed the latest developments in the region and ways to ensure security and stability regionally and internationally. Meanwhile, the official news agency of Iran reported that in his meeting with the Emir of Qatar, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei said that the turbulent situation in the region is due to the presence of the U.S. and its allies. Iraqi media reports suggest that 7 mortar bombs fell inside Iraq's Balad air base, which houses U.S. forces. 5 Iraqi soldiers have reportedly been injured in the attack. Media reported, citing military sources. They said mortar bombs fell inside the base, which is located in Salah al-Din province, 80 kilometers north of Baghdad. There is no official confirmation, however, of such an attack. No group so far have taken responsibility for the attack too. A majority of U.S. airmen stationed at the Balad air base had already left, the military sources said, following tensions between the U.S. and Iran over the last 2 weeks. The World Future Energy Summit opens in Abu Dhabi today, with 33,500 attendees expected from 170 countries and 800 specialist exhibitors. The 2020 edition will be held under the theme Rethinking Global Consumption, Production and Investment, bringing together more than 1,000 delegates and 90 speakers, including music star and philanthropist Akon, the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina Wazir, and a host of global innovators. World Future Energy Summit is Middle East's largest future energy and sustainable event. The event will showcase 42 of the world's most disruptive innovations related to the future of energy, food, agriculture, and sustainability in space. In Philippines, a volcano near the capital Manila spewed a massive cloud of ash into the sky yesterday, forcing the precautionary evacuation of thousands of residents. Government seismologists recorded magma moving towards the crater of Taal, one of country's most active volcanoes located 65 kilometers south of Manila. Chief of Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, Renato Solidum, said if such activity continues, it will increase the chances of an eruption that could happen within days to within weeks. Taal's last eruption was in 1977. Human Rights Watch chief Kenneth Watts has said he has been denied entry into Hong Kong. He had arrived to launch the Watchdog's annual report after months of civil unrest in the city. Hong Kong has been battered by nearly 7 months of occasionally violent protests, its biggest political crisis in decades. The longtime executive director of New York-based rights group, in a video posted to Twitter, said he was turned back at the city's airport. And now to end this bulletin, here are the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, dispute over Citizenship Amendment Act has made the world aware of persecution of religious minorities in Pakistan. Home Minister Amit Shah says there is no provision for taking away citizenship anywhere in the CAA. USA says one of deal with China and buying $200 billion worth of additional products from the United States. In Philippines, a volcano near capital Manila threw a massive cloud of ash into the sky, forcing precautionary evacuation of thousands of residents. And that is the end of this news bulletin.
This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. Now, in our special series of Honor Gandhi, we bring to you a talk by Kalpana Shivala, writer on Gandhi's relationship